LIL KALISH CalMattersCalifornia's Reparations Task Force will release today its first of 2 reports detailing the state's history of slavery and racism and recommending ways the legislature might begin a process of redress for Black Californians, including proposals to offer housing grants, free. The 500-page study describes decades of state and federal government actions that harmed Black Americans, from American slavery to the more recent redlining, mass incarceration, police actions and the widening wealth gap between blacks and whites. After police killed George Floyd in the subsequent nationwide protests, Governor Gavin Newsom in 2020 signed legislation establishing the task force to study and develop a plan for reparations in the state. The law gave special consideration to Black Americans who are direct descendants to enslaved people. The task force report proposes dozens of recommendations, including that the legislature implement a comprehensive reparations scheme. The final details, including the exact monetary amount of compensation and the number of Black Californians eligible, will be in a second report due to the legislature by July 2023. The task force recommends establishing 10 new offices within state government to oversee administration of reparations, including an Office of African American/Freedmen Affairs to help people file claims for compensation and an Office of Freedmen Genealogy to help people prove their eligibility with. It's unclear how many people would qualify for reparations. The task force estimates that, despite California's anti-slavery constitution, about 1,500 enslaved Black people were living in the state in 1852. After slavery was formally abolished, California became the breeding ground for the Ku Klux Klan. The report says in the 1920s the KKK hosted more events in California than it did in Louisiana or Mississippi. In Los Angeles, the police department teamed with KKK members. In Kern County, klansmen routinely beat and kidnapped Black and Latino residents. The report also referenced numerous instances of segregation and restrictive housing covenants across the state. And it described the wholesale destruction of several Black neighborhoods and cities. In the 1950s, for instance, the city of San Francisco razed Fillmore, a Black business district, destroying 883 businesses and displacing about 20,000 people from nearly 5,000 homes. The task force proposes that people who lost homes to government seizures, urban renewal projects, freeway construction, or racist attacks be eligible for housing grants and zero-interest loans. Their recommendations aim to not only address specific instances of violence or prior harm, but can also to support future generations of Black Californians.